Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Manuel Viveros, and I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to be here with you and share some points and to have this interesting conversation about theater. Actually, because I'm going to try to organize some ideas that I have. Okay, actually, I'm in New York City. I'm a first year student right now at NYU in the Department of Spanish and Portuguese Literature. I just finished my MFA in theater at the University of Louisville in Kentucky, and just moved to New York to start my PhD. Thank you, Gypsy. What else I like to share with you? Well, let's start to talk about me a little bit. I'm from Colombia. Colombia is a country which is in the middle of America, and this is another conversation that I usually have here in the United States about where is Colombia. And when I say this, right in the middle of America, people say like, wait a minute, America. So America is a huge continent. We are right in the bottom of Central America, at the top of South America. And yes, it's a country with, we have two coasts, one the coast in the Caribbean and a coast in the Pacific Ocean. If you want to know more about Colombia, I don't know what to say. So it's the country of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Shakira, Juanes, James Rodriguez, Juan Cuadrado, Sofía Vergara, I don't know, Fernando Vallejo. What else to say about Colombia? Well, this is a very particular country. This position makes the country very with an interesting cultural diversity. We have like the mountains, the Andean mountains that come to the country, and this the coast, and also we have a small piece of the Amazonas forest. So that makes very interesting the country in terms of culture. I'm basically from the Pacific coast, which is a part in the country which is mostly African descent population. Yes, but I'm from Cali. Cali is a city 2 hours away from the Pacific coast. It's a city well known because of the salsa. We say we are the world salsa capital. But also it's a city important in the theater in South America, at least in Latin America, because it's the city of where theater is based, which is called the Teatro Experimental de Cali, the experimental theater from Cali. This is a theater like well known because in the 60s they developed a kind of way to do theater, which is called creación colectiva, which is the same thing basically like devised theater. They start to work with that in the 60s at the same time that Augusto Boal worked in Brazil, and this person which is called Enrique Buenaventura was working with creación colectiva in Colombia. So I invite you if you like to know more about that. I thought I saw an article in, I don't remember the university, maybe I can remember later, to invite you to read about that. It's like a very quick review about Latin American theater and social change in the 60s, which was, it's very interesting to understand that develop of theater in Latin America. I think it's called like Augusto Boal and Enrique Buenaventura and the social change theater, something like that. So I invite you to read that. Yes, I finished my BFA at Universidad del Valle in Cali, which is most, I think it's they have a very particular point of view of the classical theater, because my professor, most of them study at GTs in Russia, but also some professors are from China, or they're from Canada. So it's also the city is cultural, and the theater program is a very like dynamic cultural space that after when I finished my BFA, I moved to Buenaventura, which is right in the coast, in the Pacific coast. Is probably 85 or 90% African descent population, and it's the door from the population that come from the coast to inside the country. And we start to do theater workshops there. After 3 years, or 3 years later, this is a branch of the university where I used to study. They decide to open the theater program there, and basically that decision was 10 years ago, changed my life in terms of in that moment I became as a professor, I became as a research, and it's interesting because also I became as a professional actor. When I decided to move there, at the same time I received those invitations to do some TV shows and mostly films in my country. So I start to have a wide view of what theater could mean, what actings mean, and I start to work with that and try to apply all the things that I learned in these different kind of spaces where I use my ability to do theater, to act. Well, what else? I have some points here to try to have an organized point of view. I'm going to try to talk not too much. I'm going to try to talk probably just only 30 minutes, and then we can start to, I can ready read your questions and we can try to have a conversation. I like this way more than be here and just talk and talk and talk. Yeah? Okay. Okay. In Buenaventura, we work with this. Buenaventura is a very particular city because it's the main port of the country. In this port city, we have probably the 65% of the commercial trades of my country, but also is one of the poorest city in Colombia. We have a high rates of unemployment people. It's a city also that has this theater program, but the city has not a theater as a space. So that was the first point that I was like thinking about, why we open a theater program in a city that has not a theater as a building. And in this process, we realized that the theater activity is most related, have been more related with the community through our cultural expression as African descents. And in this process, we start to think about like what we're gonna do, how we're gonna teach the people, how we're gonna teach to these students that come here to the university and they have their own inquiries about art and about the life, how we're gonna connect this with the theater. So, and the other, like 2 or 3 days ago, I watched this live with this beautiful woman from South Africa, and she talked about the connection between theater and politics and theater. Also, when I moved to Buenaventura, I began this master on government and public policy. So I start to connect, like, okay, this is how like society works. This is what we do. This is what we would like to do with these students. And yes, I understood that this connection, this strong connection between theater and society, theater and community, in terms of we develop our citizenship in the community, and that's basically politics. So some of the question I have is like start to inquiry who we are, how we connect our things, how we express our art ideas, and connect all this with the community. Yes, in Colombia we have 5 years ago this peace agreement with one of the guerrillas. They say the oldest guerrillas in the world. We realized that after this peace agreement, the violence keep. And we were asking about why we still living in the middle of like, this violence movement if we supposed to do the peace. So we realized that the violence has other roots, and we start to talk about that in the theater program. That helps a lot that allows to the student to express what they think, and we realize that the meaning of this program is to teach the people, teach the students to understand, to observe, understand, and transform their environment. That was basically, this is basically what we do. Well, I'm here at US 4 years ago, but I keep in touch with the program, with the professors, and we have all this conversation about, okay, what we're going to do with theater, or which is the place we're going to do this semester, which is the place we're going to analyze this semester, and how we're going to try to say truths using theater. We have this conversation the other day that we say like, okay, I think theater could be a lot of things. Theater could be a mirror, a gun, a hammer. Theater, even though, could be an archive. I mean, like through theater we can like trace a community in terms of theater express what community lives. And we have this idea of theater as a big lie, which is built upon deep truths. And that was interesting because we start to say, like, we start to ask ourselves about why people like accept some kinds of lies and do not accept other kinds of lies. Like sometimes people doesn't like theater because say lies, but the lies that theater says are based on truths. Probably the problem between theater and reality, or theater and community, sometimes this connection is because people sometimes doesn't like to listen some kinds of truths amongst these kind of truths that theater brings and bring to the fore, bring and express to start this conversation. We were asking about why people like to listen politician lies but doesn't like to listen theater lies. And yeah, this is like how we try to answer this question through the academic program in Colombia, at least in this part of the country. We realize also that our former students, most of them, when they leave the university, like some of them try to start small theater companies in the city. Actually, we have like 3 or 4 companies, small companies, theater companies in the city. Most of them do theater that talked about themselves, about the community, about their problems. But the other group of students that move to other spaces as media or like virtual communities, or even though in the politics field, because we have some people who are working now in the like culture secretary in the city. Most of them are connected their work with the city, or with their vision of the city, and they are bringing every time like ideas to change the community. We realize that is important, and that is I'm talking all these things because I think my vision of our program, and we start to move over that, is I think theater is a very, very powerful tool to change the community through this kind of conversation. Like we have this this space and this opportunity to gather people and present not only ideas but also like present ways to solve the problems. Yes, this is some of the things they have. Okay, I don't know if you want to know something else about the city. I could talk about all that stuff. Probably I don't know if I jump something at why I came to US. Okay, I arrived to Buenaventura and start to translate plays from the African American theater world and do the Colombian version of those plays. And my personal like research and inquiry was try to develop or try to unpack this connection between communities. I said, like, wait a minute, we have this place that talks. I mean, like, this play was written in the United States or the Caribbean, the African diaspora, and when we work with this play in Colombia, in the Pacific coast, it's like basically this play talks about us. So something happened here. So I start to do this inquiry, to follow my instinct and try to gather some theoretic documents, and that's why I arrived to Louisville, because they have this African American theater program. And my thesis basically in Louisville was I took in Buenaventura, I took African American plays and do the Colombian version. So in Louisville, here in the United States, in Estados Unidos, actually, I brought this African Colombian play and tried to answer why this play connect with the African American community. That is interesting because that enhance and reinforce this idea that I have that theater is closer than we thought. Theater really talk about us as human beings and not exactly always as a like separate communities, and or work as artists, as research, as professors, as even though as audience, is to keep this conversation and unpack this message about human being that theater brings every time. One of the cases is like the first play I translate and do in Colombia was a play that talks about progress and community and corruption, and it's a play from Derek Walcott. It was very interesting. Like when we start to talk about these problems, we realize that wait a minute, we have these problems here. We say, okay, this is something special that this play said, and then we talk that this is something special that theater has as a tool that help us to reveal our own deep feelings. Yeah, that is. So I don't know if you have any questions, so we can start to have this like exchange of ideas, or I can answer your questions. So whatever, I don't know what we do. I mean, like I try to pack, to put everything very short, to try to engage with this conversation. So I don't know if you have any question, please write and we can start. I can explain more things about the way as we work and etc. In my master, in my government and public master, I did a thesis related with the idea of political culture, which is the way how we are shaped as community. And then I moved this idea of the political culture in the idea of the play political culture to apply it through theater. So we start to use games and plays on theater to talk about community. That was very interesting because this idea of like theater is a big play, you know. This idea of the play as a space where you feel that you are part of, you have to follow some kind of rules. You create a different space. You are aware that you can win and you can lose. And even though if you lost, you accept. You know, sometimes this is the things that we forgot in the real life. So that's why we use this play tool, not only to teach theater and to explain theater in the community, but also to explain that we could use some of those things in the community. Yeah, even though when we play, we play with people that we don't know, and we are agreed to share objectives. This is the people of our team. If it's a person that we don't know and that person win or we win, at the end we keep being friends. I don't know why we sometimes forget that in the real life. So that's why we use the play as a tool on theater, and that's why I use that like idea to my thesis, connecting that with the idea of political culture and how basically I discuss how the political culture sometimes make us forget. this thing of we are a community. We have to work together. We have to keep education. My specialty, okay, yes, Owen, thank you. My specialty in teaching is acting. I use, as I said, I use so much the like theater games or plays to explain how to develop scenes, how to create characters, how to analyze the scenes. I am not exactly a follower of acting techniques. I know that I can use some techniques and I can discuss that with the students, but I like to explain that through games what we are doing or what is the objective, what kind of theater you are doing there. In Colombia, we did this, as I told you. In Colombia, we did this African diaspora theater at the beginning. Then, when we opened the school, we do more like classical theater, but also lately we are doing even the Latin American theater and contemporary theater there. When I moved to Louisville to do my MFA at the university, we did different kind of theater. We did like device theater and also the theater for youths. And I did at the university, even though African American theater too. Actually, here in New York, like I just moved 5 months ago. I'm trying to establish. I arrived right in the moment of the pandemic situation here, so basically I arrived to a empty city, and I'm gonna try to build a community here, Latin community that help us, because my research here will be based on African Latin performance in U.S. Like how when a culture comes into other cultures, Afro Latins here, how we influence the development of African American theater. Wait, I have more questions here. What kind of theater you do here? Yes. So some light on theater in Colombia and how it's different from US. Yes, that's a good question. Thank you. Latin America theater, because this detail that I told you at the beginning related with the Boal and Buenaventura's theater, Latin American theater is more related with social movements. And that is important because of the political situation in Latin America. Like from the 60s, we have these coups and lots of military governments that basically affect a lot the community. And from the 60s here in Latin America, I'm more related with express those things that are forbidden. Mostly it happened in Brazil, it happened in Chile. Chile is a very, very interesting country to analyze in terms of theater, in terms of like revolutionary theater. Also Argentina. And through in Colombia, we have in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the relationship between theater and social movements. We were related with unions and farmers movements, students movements a lot. So theater in Colombia is more a theater that likes to talk about people and our problems. I think we have a change in the mid 80s to this point because we understand this idea of commercialized theater. But even though, like, I think the most interesting place I saw recently are talking about the violence situation in Colombia in a commercial way, and that's good because I think it's something that is related with our identity as theater. I think in the 50s and a little before, theater in Colombia were more related with trying to copy, repeat like Eurocentric model of theater, but then we are trying to build our own identity. That's different than US because I found this theater industry in US, how that is also related with even the education system, for example, like the schools. That's at least my impression, my point. The schools are more related with like try to keep alive the industry, which is good in terms of jobs and opportunities to have a life on theater. But sometimes in some points, like, they lost this point of view of what else you can do on theater more than do entertainment. You know, I think we in Colombia are more focused on trying to talk to the people about ourselves, about what is going on around you, what you can do to change the situation, etc. Yeah, theater of people, for people, by people. If I'm agree with it, yes, I think I copied something here before because I was trying to think about it. I think that theater is live poetry because it's text, it is music, it is movement, it is thought. So that's why, basically, if we describe this in something, we are theater. We are the theater. So that partisan, that theater of people, for people, and by the people, I add something to that, is because we are the theater, we are the people. Yes. I don't know if you want to say something else. That's good. That's very good. Like, how you can say some things, and I don't know if it is clear. I've been, like, last night I just sleep a little bit because this is like my first presentation or conversation about theater, and English is not my mother tongue, so a little bit like anxious about that, but I think it's working a little bit. I don't know if you want to ask something else, and we can keep this conversation. Yes, I like this to understand, to explain, like, theater is a human activity more than a commercial activity. If we check, like, if we review how theater born in different places around the world is more related with the human thinking about itself, about us, and how we transform this thought about us and our activities in something that I say live poetry. And yes, so we need to understand that and to develop. I'm sorry, I lost a little bit because, okay, part to say it again. Theater of people, for people, by the people. I am agree with that, and I say it. Not only that, this is, I mean, like, theater of people, for people, by people, because we are theater. Yeah, I'm agree with that, because theater, like, we are theater. I don't know if that is clear. I don't know if it works. If you want, I like expand a little bit more that idea. If you want to, like, ask something else, and I can help you. You have seen or read about Indian theater. I don't. So sadly, I don't have so much. Basically, I've not read before about Indian people, but I'm very interested to be there. I would like to visit India. I worked in a movie in 2016, which is called Candelaria. I don't know if you saw that movie, because that movie was present in a theater, in a film festival. Oh my God, I forgot the city. And it was a problem with my visa. So finally, I cannot visit India. But after that, I'm very interested to go and to understand what happened there. So if you, if you just let me know, just write me, follow me by Facebook, and try to keep in touch to understand, to try to follow and to try to visit India, because I would like to be there. And probably, I'm sure that we're gonna find, like, lots of bridges that make us to build that world theater, which is, I think, the most important thing that must happen. We are moving a lot with this idea of the commercial things, but we are losing this point of why we do theater. We do theater because we need to talk about ourselves, because we need to express in some way what has happened with us. What similarity or difference you see between professional and amateur theater? Well, in Colombia, this line between professional and amateur theater is very thin, is very blurry, basically. We talk in Colombia like basically if you can live off theater, we are doing professional theater. That's the first point. I think the US is more based, to me, it's a very particular this point of view of if you are doing theater with quality in a community center, you are not doing professional theater. Like what is the kind of professional theater in terms of, is professional the amount of money you can earn doing theater? I think professional is professional to me has a strong relationship with quality, dedication, time. You can try to do very, very good work, very like high quality, dedicated poetry, and you put the best of that. To me, if that works to you and you spend a lot of time doing that, that's professional in terms of that works. You know, how that works with the community. Because also I saw some called professional theater that really the quality is not too good, but it's professional. I don't know, because of the time, because of the publicity they have. So that's some of the question. Okay, what similarity, difference? How is the economy of theater in Colombia? How theater survives? Most of the people who do theater in Colombia, we teach. Basically, we work academic work in schools, college. Some people work at university, and now there is a strong movement. It's like reborn the social movement through theater. That has happened now, mostly with the after the peace agreement. So there are a lot of people working with communities to try to talk about the violence experience after the war with the FARC, with the guerrillas. So now there is a lot of people who's working. I think government sometimes like give money to those projects, and now people are supporting small initiatives based on theater and the violence experience. So now, like the last 3 or 4 years, people are working a lot, and small theater companies in the cities that are talking about themselves. But people cannot live only from theater, so most of the people I know, even though doing professional theater, they're teaching in some place, or schools, academies, or something like that. Transformation in theater, if we think, is of usually and commonly gives an idea of active transformation, correct? A vision of transformation of society through theater. I believe yes. I believe people wants to go to theater. I asked to some audience, to part of the audience in Buenaventura, like 5 years ago, why they come to see us, why they come to see the play. Most of them say because they are curious about what happened on the stage. That way they answer before watch the play. But after the play, they say they realize that things that happen there talks about themselves. The other thing is the connection with the other, like when you are sitting. I mean, like this is a little bit different with the movies. When you go to cinema, you know, you sit with other people and you are watching a screen. That's good, that's pretty. But when you are going to theater, you are sitting next to other people, but you are watching people too. Like this is real the thing that's happening in front of you, and it's real people here. So the reaction are like real, and it's in the moment. And for example, in the Pacific Coast, people like to do comments usually between them about what has happened. When we are on the stage, we are listening what people are saying, and this is like a live conversation every time. It's like bringing more energy, more energy, more energy. This is a way to transform. Sometimes on theater we can talk about something that we don't like to talk into real life. That's the thing that's happened now with this theater about the violence experience that we have now in Colombia. There is a powerful play which is called like Labio de Liebre. I don't know how to say that. Like rabbit. How is this? Lip. And it's a play that is talking about a terrible case that happened with a community leader who was killed. And yeah, this one of this group even though play with the head of this person. But it was a case that even though the government did not want that people talk about, because other things that's happened in my country related with politics and paramilitary group and all those things. But this play bring to the fore the problem of the relationship between politics and violence, and that's so good. People start to talk about that. People that watch that movie start to say like, wait a minute, this is something that happened here. And this person that say like transformation of the community beyond the stage, yes, this play is an example of we can talk about things that it's hard, sometimes it's hard to say to the people that are, yes. Who sponsored plays talking about peace? Who sponsored plays talking about United Nations now gave some money for that. Sometimes now, mostly with the pandemic situation, and probably 3 years ago, government like bring more money to the grants. Sadly, this year they make a lot of talks about that. But most of the grants also are writing about community. So the theme basically is something that they cannot cover or look to other side, because the theme now are based on peace. So government gives sometimes money, but it's more because it's the obligation, the responsibility. United Nations has a lot of programs now. There is an organization called Activoca, which is like a branch of the United States Embassy. A lot of NGOs from Europe support those activity, not in the big cities, more in the forest places. Yes, I think this is the most institution that sponsor theater about peace. And the church, Colombia is a Catholic church, a Catholic country. Now it's not too much Catholic, but yes, the church, the Catholic Church give money, and now the other church try to follow this kind of model of bring. There is an organization called Theater for the Peace. I don't know if I can, because there is a video which is called, you can watch that video in my Facebook. About today also I'm going to post the second video about two things that happened recently in Colombia related with violence, and how in those videos, musical videos, people are expressing what is going on. But the video that is already posted in my Facebook is interesting because two of the singers, they work with theater with us. One of them, this lady, she is actually student in our program in Buenaventura. So it's interesting because they are musicians that comes to theater to build this idea, and now they are using the theater tools again to music. Like we are using theater also as a something that propel this idea of, okay, I want to participate, but I don't know how to do. They come to the theater program. They understand not only how they transform their ideas, how they make powerful their ideas, and they return to the community to, again, do more things. People saw professional attitude in professional theater, but I think amateur is more dedicated. I don't know if amateur theater is more dedicated, but I think, yeah, the good thing in amateur theater is that we don't have everything easy to do, and that make us creative, that make us think, okay, I have this problem, how I'm going to solve this. You don't have a person that come here and give me everything. So I mean, like, I did movies and TV, and this world where you say I want something and people brings to you, but in this theater in the community, we say we need this and we need build this that we need. Do you have any system controls to freedom of expression to your theater? Controls of freedom of expression. Not now. We have more control of freedom expression through, I don't know if it's good to say this, but through violence. Some groups doesn't like to listen what is going on. We have now a huge problem in Colombia about social leaders, and have a high rate of killing of social leaders. Recently, United Nations talks about that. Recently, like German government talked about that, because he is not exactly through theater, like a ban to say things, but yes, there are some like bad environment related of express things, and this is related with violence. Even though some people, the other good things from theater is like you are a theater leader in your community, so people, there is a kind of protection that you have because you are doing your job. You are not exactly like go directly against, and you have a deep influence in the community. How much local government is receptive about theater exposing realities? This is a very good question. Okay, the actual government in Colombia, the national government is right wing. Sadly, has a like shadow of relationship with some paramilitary groups, and they are trying, and this is why I say at the beginning the idea of theater as an archive, and this is important because the archive is the way as an identity is built. Yes, the memory of a country is the way as the country identified later. The actual government is trying to change the way as the history has been told. The good thing of theater is you can change the history, but you cannot change the theater. You cannot change what theater say, what the play say. So the government now is trying to change the way as the violence has been told in the institutional way, but they cannot change the way as the history is told through the theater. So that's good because government, even though they want to change that, they must be receptive because it's a way to express, and they cannot control theater. They cannot control. That's the good thing of arts. This is not easy to control that. How is complex to have theater being originated from Africa and belong to American country? Okay, this idea of the where did I lost that question? I'm sorry. How is complex to have theater being originated from Africa and belong to America? I think my impression is that the countries now in Africa that they have this idea of theater is based on as us. It's a theater that is like developed from some kind of European way to do theater. The idea of theater, and this is something that I learned here in US, there is a document called Black Expression, the characteristic of Black expression. It was from 1934 from Zora Neale Hurston, and it's a document that tried to explain the Black expression. She's talking about Black expression in US, but the interesting thing is some of those characteristics she talks about, some of those features connect directly with African descent expression in Colombia, and also connect with African diaspora expression. Probably connect with Africa directly. This way of connection is what helped, at least to me, to understand that there is something that is go beyond the idea of theater in terms of the form. That thing that goes beyond is based on not exactly in the form as the stage and lights, but it's something that comes with the spirit. And this idea of the theater originate in Africa is from America and all those things. It's something that is in our spirit as community, as Black communities. It's something that is related with the ritual, but it's also related with I call the festivity and the gather. I don't know if my answer helps to that. Probably I lost a little bit doing that. Is there any vision of someone or some theater expert who has influenced you? Yes. I love the Brechtian theater, but also because some of my professors in Colombia, they work in this Brechtian idea. The creación colectiva, which is collective creation, I talked at the beginning from Enrique Buenaventura, and has a strong connection because it is contemporary with the oppressed theater from Boal. These two theaters have been inspired in the Brechtian like ideas. So I believe this is kind of theater that inspired me now. Now I'm moving to the analysis of performance. That's why also I came to US, to NYU, because now I'm trying to analyze the value of other ways of other elements into the theater activity. Recently, I've been reading the Schechner documents about performance and other things, so I'm trying to follow this kind of information from here, from NYU. Is there do you relate black and white theater of South Africa and Colombia? That's another good point. Okay, I came to US and I started to compare this history about black descent, which is very interesting in US and Colombia. Okay, there is some important dates to keep in mind. Colombia, for example, is one of the countries that ended the slavery situation before US. That's important because that talks about how is the communities are related. US to later, and then we have all the segregation situation they have. I think they are more connected with South Africa in terms of segregation people. We have, I think that the Colombian segregation is different because it's not cultural. It's more, I mean, like, I explain this way of segregation in terms of cultural space or institutional space. I think, for example, in US, it was an institutional, probably in South Africa too, it was an institutional like point or philosophy, the segregation. So the institution, the government, the laws, they were built to segregate people. Yeah? I think in Colombia, there is more that it doesn't happen because the government were looking for a national identity that brings everything, but also that way erase this trace of other cultures inside the country. You know, like we are Colombians. That's it. In institutional way, we are Colombian. The good thing is in the cultural space, we can be mixed. So the cumbia, which is a Colombian rhythm, people identify as a mix of cultures, for example. In the food, we talk about this is a mix. Black and white theater of South Africa. Do you relate black and white theater? of South Africa and in Colombia. I don't understand. Can you explain me a little bit more that question? I'm so sorry. I don't know if it means like in terms of theater, this idea of the Colombian theater also erase a little bit this spatial features that we could have. And I think we have a new constitution in 1991 that is a constitution that accepts that Colombia is a multicultural and pluriethnic country. And after that, the institutional idea came to encourage every cultural expression in the country. So now we have Office of the Black Expression, could be that through the culture minister, but also we have indigenous institution for that, and we have even a Rom community. I don't know how it's called that, like gypsy community too. So now, I mean, like it wasn't something that was think like you have to be separate or you do not exist, but it was something that was based on the idea of we are only one identity. We don't need to be separate. But this speech sometimes put at the top some ideas more than others, some expressions more than others. I don't know if I could explain that. I'm so sorry if you feel a little bit lost. In the present-day materialistic world, the total narrative of life is changing fast. What are your present vision of fear in this present world order? That's good. People now miss theater because now the pandemic situation like put everybody in that small space that is our houses. We lost this opportunity to share the life exchange, which is more than just being in front of a screen, you know. Vision someone, wait, oh, I'm sorry, I lost with the question. I'm so sorry. I think that now theater, we had time in the last 5 months to think about, because we stopped. People who do theater, basically, we have to stop. You have time to ask about ourselves what we have been doing in our lives, what the theater we have been doing. And also we have more time to see the world. I think actually, and to the future, theater should try to answer that, like, what are we doing? What are we doing as community? What are we doing with the environment? How our governments are working? How are our political people? How can we engage with changes? You know, I mean, like, theater should try to answer that. And now, I think that my vision of theater is a theater that tries to answer that. Probably there is not only one answer, but theater gives the opportunity to explore a bunch of answers possible, all the possibilities to answer that. Wait, similarities or difference between professional and this is like, wait, I'm lost with the question, so I'm gonna try to follow that. How much government? We don't have in this idea of black theater in Colombia. We have like a small through the history. We have small expressions like initiatives. I recommend to you to read a person which is very I worked with his play to my thesis in Louisville. It's called Manuel Zapata Olivella. This year, the culture minister in Colombia is the Manuel Zapata Olivella year. And he's a person who has a very interesting journey, because he moved to Colombia and go through Central America to US and returned to Colombia. And when he returns to Colombia, he starts to write and do research about what black diaspora. This is one of the small initiatives about black theater in Colombia. We don't have Black theater tradition. That's why I came to US to try to understand why we don't have that. We are trying to build and gather all those traces to identify something that could be called African Colombian theater. But also we know that the African Colombian expression are more related with dance, with folk dances, with like poetry. So we are trying to build this idea of theater through other performative ways. This is the way also as I relate black and white, like theater developed in Colombia. I don't know if you have other questions. Hello. Hey. Hi, are you there? Yes, I think you are. Yes, you are. You have other questions to keep this conversation going? I don't know if you have. This is something that I would like to talk about. I don't know if you know that the last 3 days in my country we have a lot of riots because yes, there is a person who was killed in a similar way that George Floyd in the United States, but with a taser, an electric shock machine. And the last 3 days there's a lot of riots. I just realized that the military minister just played like he said try to, how is the word, like he said that this was very bad. I think this amount of riots that is happening actually in the world is also because we have not the opportunity to express other ways. Theater is one of those ways. People don't have opportunity to go to theater to talk about what is going on. So there is a kind of rage which is like ready to make boom. And also that happened now in Colombia. Look, when you as a government, when you don't have people talk or express what they self, these kind of things happen. And I think that's why it's important, the arts in general and theater in particular, as a way to be there and talk together. What Buenaventura is, and the program you start here. Okay. This program, as I don't know if you say at the beginning, this program in Buenaventura is more a program that is try to help to the people to talk about themselves and change the community. So sometimes, even though my thought as professor is, okay, I have this group of people, they need to understand what theater is, but they need to understand that theater is a tool and a gun, so they could change the world with theater. We can teach how to be best, like the best actor, how to be a good director, how to be a good, stage manager, all those things. If a professor, and this is not only in theater, this is everywhere. If a professor will not teach to the people that what they are learn is to change their world, we are not teaching nothing. In Buenaventura, with the professor, we talk continually about we are not only teaching theater, we are teaching tools to change the city, to change the students' world, to change the country. It looks like a little bit idealist, but make us as professor to be aware of what we are doing, that our work do not end, do not finish when we stop to read in a play. And help to the students to be aware every time that they have to do something with everything that they are learning. and they are questioning every time, what can I do with this? What can I do with this? More than just thinking about I need to get a job, because that is real. That is what happened. But we need to move, like make higher stakes in terms of what we're going to do. I don't know if you have more questions. This is like, yeah, like my this kind of like my presentation, and the idea that I had to talk and to share points of view and to talk. I don't know if you have any other questions or comments about the presentation here. Thank you very, very, very much for this opportunity. And yes, thanks for everything. I'm gonna give you just 5 minutes more for question or comments, and then I think I have to say goodbye. So if you want to say something, I can read you. I can just answer that. Thanks for responding all. Says God. Arushi Thakur. Thank you. So I would like to go to India too, to say something about why do we do theater. That's good. Why do we do theater? I think people that do theater, we are, I don't know how to say this. Wait, I need to say this word in English, but I don't know the word in English, so I need to find. Give me 1 second. Restless. We are restless people. We do theater because we need to find a space, an opportunity, a place, an activity that brings us peace, a kind of peace. We need to find peace. And I do not say peace as the way that my idea of peace is like, even though know that we have a lot of things in our head and that we can give a shape, we can shape the things that we have in our head. I think we do theater because we are restless people that are every time continually looking for peace. And theater is a space, an opportunity, an activity that approach us to that. Yeah, that was my answer. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I feel very, very inspired. Please, there's some of the shows and things that I worked before. There are some of the network. You can find that, and you can like find me by Facebook, and we can have conversation about that. I would love to be in India. Please keep in touch, because as much as I get an opportunity, I will be there. Thank you very much. Food for mind. Yes, this is food for mind. Yes, sure. So thank you very much. I'll keep follow you. This has been an amazing opportunity. I watch the other videos. I try to follow every time. I say like, this is what we need. We need to talk about what we do to keep doing. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Have a nice and amazing day and rest of the year. Thank you. Just keep going.